solution. For today's session, our special guest is Eric Pendock and subject expert is Dr. Samil Dubey. On behalf of RFI, I welcome you both, sir, and also all the participants. I am also thankful to RFI to give me this opportunity to introduce the experts for today's session. So let me introduce them. Our special guest, Eric Pendock, is a professional, inspirational speaker, educator, moderator, facilitator, and Amazon best-selling author. He is a positive influencer, mentor, and coach of public speaking, clarity, and confidence building. He started his coaching and mentoring program called Confidently Speaking Institute in 2019 and published his best-selling book titled Say It Loud, Say It Proud last July of 2020. His work is about the importance of communication, learn the art of public speaking, and confidence in presentation. He is a distinguished Toastmasters, the highest distinction in Toastmasters International. Combining a sense of responsibility with gentleness and humor, he states his mission clearly. I was born to bring out the best in people by sharing my experience in the mechanics and dynamics of confident communication so that others can realize their dreams. Sir is a licensed teacher and had a background in customer service and marketing in the Philippines before moving to Canada in 2008. He now speaks globally in different platforms, organizations, and schools to share his mission and vision. I welcome you, sir. And today's subject expert is Dr. Samil Dubey. Sir holds postgraduate degree in Commerce and Management from Devi Ahilya Viswavidyalaya, Indore. He is having 18 years academic and 4 years of corporate experience. He has worked for Vardhaman Polytech Limited, Ludhiana, Indore Institute of Management and Research, and IPS Academy, Indore. At present, he is working with Acropolis Institute of Management Studies and Research, Indore, as an associate professor and course coordinator of BCom. He is having more than 20 national and international publications in research journal and conference proceedings. He has a case study published by European Case Clearing House to his credit. Dr. Dubey has also co-authored a book named Banking Law and Practice in India. He is a member of Madhya Pradesh Economic Association and Research Foundation of India. He has also been training faculties for managing virtual classes and preparation of video lectures as well. Sir has been invited as a speaker by UGC Human Resource Development Center for delivering sessions on ICT tools and research methodology. He is having research interest in financial institutions and services, financial policies, and behavioral finance, banking, and multi-faculty collaborative research along with research methodology. So, therefore, I welcome all the participants and experts once again. So, thank you so much, sir. So, we welcome you and let's start the session now. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amita Soni. Thank you very much for introducing us.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to acknowledge everyone here. So it says here we are 150 participants. Wow. And very impressive. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Ajay for inviting me here too. I had this topic. It's about the review of research ethics and plagiarism. But I would like to focus more on plagiarism and copyright. So let's go forward. Okay, what is plagiarism, by the way? Plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as if it's your own. So that is the basic definition of plagiarism. So you present someone's work as your own and you are using it with or without their consent. Okay, so you did not ask permission. By incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So let's say you have a research, you copy it 100%, and then you said, my name is Professor, example, Professor X, and this is my work. This is my research. But actually, you copy someone else's work. So that is plagiarism. It can also violate someone's, we can call it copyright, which is closely related but not actually the same with plagiarism. So all published and unpublished materials, manuscript or printed, or let's say in electronic form is covered under this definition. The truth is, when you go into a presentation and then you have your PowerPoint slide, okay, or cartoons in PowerPoint, let's say a picture, a cartoon, or anything in your PowerPoint slides, and you use it, you may be also committing an act of copyright and plagiarism. But in reality, you don't know it. So be very careful. Be very careful when you use a cartoon, a picture into your PowerPoint slides. You may not know that you are committing a copyright issues and you are actually doing the so-called plagiarism. Okay, so very careful about that. So what is plagiarism in an example, by the way? Again, we all know plagiarism means using someone else's words or ideas without properly crediting the original author. That's the reason why when I wrote my first book called Say It Loud, Say It Proud, and before I publish it, I have to make it sure that I have to acknowledge some of the authors because I use their statements or the quotes. So at the back of my book, all those authors, okay, all those authors that I borrowed words, I have to acknowledge them. So you see, the most important point here is you need to acknowledge the people, the authors, because the reality is, even if we are writing, we are speaking, we are unconsciously borrowing some words. So let's say example, you want to use this quote. The journey to 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So that's a popular quote, right? You have to make it sure that you mention the name whoever said that quote. Okay. So I think I'm very clear in that one. So when you speak, when you write, you have to mention the word according to or someone said. Okay. Example, someone said. If you don't know the name, right? Someone said, the journey to 1,000, something like that, begin with a single step. Okay. So you don't have to say it, the journey to, as if you own something. But literally, you are not the original owner. Okay. So what does plagiarism mean in school? So I would like to tackle this one. Okay. Generally speaking, plagiarism means you take someone else's work or ideas and pass them off as your own. Okay. So let's say 2-page work or a single code or anything. Don't own it. If you write a research 2 pages, that's okay. But even if you are writing, if there's a statement or code there, make sure you have to mention the name of those who made it. Okay. Also known as a cheating or copying. Okay, so be very careful because plagiarism also means cheating or copying. Plagiarism is not allowed at schools in the United States in North America. This is because colleges and universities value honesty and academic integrity from their students. So be very careful. So you also, I know most of us here are educators and teachers in colleges and high school. Also make it sure that when you are correcting the papers of your students, make sure they are not committing an act of plagiarism. It is our duty to educate them about these very sensitive issues when it comes to doing a research. So nothing ever dies on the internet. Now that we are in the age of internet, we are also should be very careful, right? We are into social media. We are into posting anything. So you have to be very careful. If you like posting pictures of code, make sure that you acknowledge whoever had the picture. That's why when I do posting in my Facebook, I always put the word CTTO. What does it mean, the CTTO? Credit to the owner. Okay? Credit to the owner. So don't own anything. That particularly it's not your original. If that's your original photography, you took it, then that's okay. Post it in your Facebook or in your other social media. Okay? So I would like to uh, tackle about copyright definition. What is copyright? Okay, exactly what is copyright? The traditional definition is the bundle of all the rights in a work. It says your voice is breaking, not audible. Okay, I think there must be problem on my internet. Thank you for pointing out that one. So there must be a problem on my internet right now, and this is Google Meet. Okay, but okay, I'll continue. But thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that one. Okay, so the copyright law notes 5 main rights that are reserved exclusively for copyright owners. So the right to reproduce the work in copies, the right to display the work, the right to perform in the public. So if you are a speaker, oh, thank you. But yeah, maybe, but sir, I can hear you clearly. But overall, thank you for letting me know. Thank you very much. That's a very good feedback. So copyright and plagiarism are directly related. It's almost the same, but two different things. But the most important here, the point of our discussion right now in my topic about research ethics and plagiarism is about honesty. That is the most important. Honesty is the best policy. We all know that. And I borrowed that words again. Honest, it's not my original, okay? So the point here is make it sure that when you say anything, that's your original, or if not, then mention one name. If you don't know the name, then someone said. Just to be in a safe side. When we say just to be in a safe side, then people will know that you are not owning someone's work. Okay? I'm unable to see slides. Unfortunately, I'm the type of person who doesn't rely on slides. And the reason why I did not also rely on slides is because I am talking and we are discussing about plagiarism. So again, I'm going to repeat what I mentioned. When you use photographs or cartoon in your slides without obtaining permission, you may be violating someone's copyright. So that is what we meant by. So be very careful. Like, let's say I've seen a lot of educators who are not actually into speaking, but they were invited. They got like full slides. The whole of the screen is full of slides. The point is that our original, right? So be very careful. Is that your own work? Did you copy that in a book? Because if not, make it sure that you put it in your PowerPoint resource. Let's say resource. Let's say you copy from this book, TED Talk. Okay, and then you got your slide, thousand of words in your slide, and then you're reading it. Make sure at the end of your PowerPoint presentation from TED Talk, Chris Anderson. So you have to acknowledge it. We've seen a lot of those, and that's true. Okay, you've been into many virtual conferences, and you see a doctor, a professor, or a teacher presenting. He got like 50 slides, and we don't know if that is original or not. But you, as a speaker or researcher, honesty is the best policy. You have to admit that you borrowed it. Okay. All right. So be very careful on having your PPT or slides. Okay. So this is the reason why we are committing an act of plagiarism in copyright. Okay. I'm going to have my. Okay. What is plagiarism explained to kids? So those who are teachers to elementary and small kids here, plagiarism is when when you use someone words, even few words. Okay? So it's not allowed in school, college, or beyond. So it's good idea to learn the paper to use resources. Okay? So take note of the word resources, such as website. Okay, acknowledge the website, the book, and the magazine. Is This is the important question that I want to ask everyone here. Is plagiarism a crime? Plagiarism is the act of taking person's original work, right? Plagiarism is not illegal in the United States in the most situation. But again, people will going to know, and it will be crime into certain extent, right? So I put a comment here. It depends on in degree. Yes, that's true. That's true, right? So if you copy it 100%, then most likely you might be uh, into committing this act of crime, and right. So you're violating someone's you're violating a law, and again, it's kind of cheating and stealing. Okay, so be very careful. So why is plagiarism a problem? Is it a big problem? Yes. As a researcher, okay, if you are into habit of doing it, then it's a big problem on your part. Why? Because you now rely on someone's work rather than your own work, right? So that's a big problem. So it's becoming a habit if you're always like that, right? The problem here is it's very unethical. Very unethical. So because it's a form of theft. So you're like stealing. By taking the ideas in words of others and pretending that it's your own, then your integrity will be questioned. Okay? So what is important here as a speaker, researcher, educator, the integrity is the most important aspect. Okay? Because you are stealing someone's intellectual property. Okay? All right. Secondly, it is unethical because the plagiarizer or the one committing plagiarism subsequently benefiting from this theft. So you are benefiting from copying or stealing other words or work. Okay? So that is a no-no. Okay. How do we avoid plagiarism? There you go. Now that we know what is all about plagiarism, now that we have basic understanding what it's all about, but again, we're not here to judge, right? We don't need to judge, but of course, we need to do something to avoid it, because sometimes we borrowed words, we borrowed slides or pictures or cartoons, but we don't know that we are committing plagiarism. It's not your intention, actually. What if it's not your intention, right? So there are few tips that we can do to avoid. Okay. One tip to avoid plagiarism is keeping track of the resources you consult in your research. So keep track of the resources or the author, okay? Paraphrasing or quoting from your sources and adding your own ideas. So you can paraphrase, add your own ideas. Okay? So when we say paraphrasing, you're not actually writing or saying the exact word. Okay, so you use paraphrase. When you paraphrase, you are incorporating to your own words. Is it clear? Okay. Okay, one way to avoid, of course, is you crediting the original author in a text citation. So I already explained that before. Let's say example, in your slide, you have the resources. You also acknowledge, you also crediting the original author. Okay? But to avoid it, you have into your subconscious mind that, is this my original word? Okay? I'm not having slides because I want to just to answer the question. Thank you for asking. Yeah, we don't have the slides right now because I'm avoiding an act of plagiarism. And I have a question from Dr. Buva. Oops. If I can't see the... Thank you. The resource person is not using slides. That's correct. Because the reason why I did not use slides right now, because I want to point out that we should be considerate, we should be knowledgeable that those slides we use is not our own personal. And that's true. That's why I've seen a lot. For the last more than 2 years, I'm doing virtual conferences or attending conferences with many speakers. They got lots of slides and thousands of words. Oh, Dr. Vuba, if we use cartoons or any image on Google in a PPT, what do we do? Good question, doctor. Again, make it sure if you get PPT slides in internet or in, just acknowledge them. You can say it in your own words. So let's say you have a slides. Sir, do we need to credit the author even when the information given by the author is paraphrase? If it is paraphrase, you may or you may not. Sir, what's the difference of copyright and patenting? Okay, I got this. Yeah. Copyright is, of course, we define copyright. Now I'm going to define what is copyright. Dr. Bupa, I still need to answer your question. Okay. I'm going to answer Dr. Buba's question. I like it. So when you download a cartoon and use it in your Google Meet slides, I will say if you can put it in your slide to acknowledge and then just mention to everyone, I took this cartoon slide, which is I like it very much because this is directly related to my topic. There you go. So you're not owning that slides. So make it sure. Say it, right? As again, my example, when I do post anything on my social media, I put the word CTTO. That means credit to the owner. Or sometimes I put picture is not mine. Okay. So again, copyright violation occurs only when a specific text expression sequence of word used as an image. That is copyright. Okay. Verbal mentioning is enough or we give proper reference per cartoon? You can do both, doctor. Yeah. Verbal acknowledging is okay. Giving recognition in your slides, the better. So you can do both. The point here is to avoid plagiarism, to avoid copyright. The point here is we are acknowledging our resource. That's the main point here, to avoid plagiarism. So when you are invited, let's say by Dr. Ajane to speak, and then you got like 20 slides, and you know that slides is you took it from internet, you know that that's not yours, right? That's not yours. So verbally mentioning or acknowledging at the end of your slides presentation, why not put one slide presentation and you put your resources, right? Let's say resources from the book Say It Loud, Say It Proud by Pendock, or from the book TED Talk, and then slides cartoon from. So be very careful. Okay. So you will now avoiding plagiarism, copyright, if you are acknowledging them in any way, verbal, in print, or put special slides at the end of your presentation and then mention all the resources. Okay? Because unknowingly, we might be getting other people's work. Okay? So that's the most important here. Now, I remember someone asked the patented. Patented is, of course, that's under the law. So when you have a work, you should get a patent. If you have an invention or innovation, you should get a patent. Okay? So that means that is already owned. So again, for the benefit of those who came in, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is an act of getting still, I will not use the word for stealing for now because let's assume that you don't know about it, right? Let's assume that you don't know it. But you are committing the so-called plagiarism and copyright. For those who are into habit of doing it, they know it. So how to avoid it? Mention verbally or into writing or at the end of your presentation. And then you're now not committing an act of plagiarism. Okay, I'm going to end my simple presentation about plagiarism. How to know if our work isn't already present? How to know if our work isn't already present? How to know? Well, it's difficult to know. Let's say I'm in India right now, and then I go back to Canada to present, and then I know that work is, I saw it from someone in India, and then I go to Canada and present it. How to check plagiarism? I think that is connected to the first question. My question is the image from another textbook is case of plagiarism? Yes. Anything that you took from a book, from internet, and you don't own it, you are committing an act of plagiarism in copywriting. Yes, you're right. Plagiarism can be accidental also because you are not aware. But because you are not aware about it, you are now actually committing plagiarism. Now, we know now what is plagiarism in copyright now, right? So the simple definition is taking anything that you don't own it and then as if you present it as your own. That's already a plagiarism. Now, you will avoid doing plagiarism if you mention your resource. Honesty is the best policy, right? Which plagiarism checking app are there for checking images? Okay, when it comes to app, how to reduce plagiarism? You reduce plagiarism by acknowledging the resources. Simple. Yeah, that's the simple. As for the app, checking app, I be honest, I am not really sure of any app to check plagiarism. But again, you as a researcher, you as a speaker, if you are honest enough, very honest, what is the difference between plagiarism and self-pregularism? Well, again, the basic definition of plagiarism is copying, owning someone's work, and acknowledging it that is your own. Well, if it is open for public and you know and very sure, you should very sure that anybody can use it. Let's say in Canva app, right? There's a free pictures to be downloaded. So you're still safe. Okay, so Canva app. So that is one question I wanna ask over there. In the Canva app, they're free. Others, you have to buy it. So again, that's not plagiarism because it's open to the public. Okay, it's now 29 minutes in my clock because I also time my presentation. Aside from plagiarism, I don't like to go overtime in my presentation. Okay, so remember, those who go overtime in their presentation because they got lots of slides that they don't actually own. They have 50 slides and they're only given 10 minutes to present. So, okay, so they're actually committing plagiarism and then at the same time violating the time. So be very careful when you do that presentation too. Okay, thank you very much. I will now hand over the virtual stage to our host. Over to you, Doctor. Thank you very much for all your question and thank you very much for listening. This is Boneric Tandok from Canada. Thank you very much. Over to you. You're welcome, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, over to you.
शाम को मैं निकल जाते हैं.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, one, sir. Amita ma'am.
Thank you, sir. It was very useful presentation.
आवाज क्यों नहीं आ रही यार?
अमृता मैम. Hello. Hello, Dr. Gunjan. You're not audible. Hello. 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 Yeah, Dr. Gunjan speaking. Yeah. Okay, fine. Now you're audible. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
We have to wait from our host. Okay.
Yes, sir. Please wait for 2 minutes. And for application for the plagiarism, in India, there is a Urkund application. So anyone who want to check the data about their plagiarism, they can use this application. Also, other 2 to 3 applications are available. But once you upload your data on that applications, you cannot check it on the other applications because 100% plagiarism would be declared there on the other applications. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I haven't used that app yet in India, but through the years of my
Yes.
experience as educator and speaker, I learned to acknowledge even single sentence that I use just to be on the safe
Yes.
side. Yeah, but
Yes,
thank you
yes.
for sharing
Thank
the
you,
app.
sir. Thank you, sir.
I would
Thank-
love to learn that app. I would love to learn
Thank you,
that.
sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I would love to. Okay, we're waiting for Doctor, our
Yes,
host.
thank you. And adding to that, so just a minute. Adding to that, there is a one more software called as the Turnitin, which is globally accepted for the plagiarism check. And whereas comes to the Urkund, there are some issues with the Urkund. When we go with the same plagiarism report to the Turnitin, the ratio means the percentage will be differ from Urkund to the Turnitin. And most of the university, they have stopped using the Urkund and they will be referred to use the Turnitin as one of the standard plagiarism check apps. Thank you.
It's a great app. Wow, awesome app. That's a great app. Yeah.
Yes, but there is a limitation, sir. When we use a Turnitin or a Workend, and we can check only up to 1,500 words. So we
Oh,
can't check. If we want to check again, we have to upload the documents again.
nice, very nice app. Well, thank you for sharing. Yes, maybe can we write the name of the apps on? Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. So now I would like to welcome Samir, sir, to proceed with the session. So as I already introduced about Samir, sir, so over to you, sir. Kindly carry on with the session, sir. Over to you, sir.
Am I audible now?
Dr. Samir, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, this was really a very delightful session from Dr. Pendock.
Just a minute, Samir, sir.
Yes.
I request all the participants to mute themselves till the session is over from the expert. Once the session is over, you can ask the question one by one. Thank you so much. Sir, you can continue the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So this was really an enlightening session from Pendock, sir. And I believe that even while listening to him, this was really nice to hear him without any slides. So this is really good, sir. Although means I was also feeling a little bit about that about using the slides, and means for us here, not only here in India but in my earlier presentations, some 2 or 3 presentations, it was really one of the messed up things while we are presenting more specifically about either for hypothesis testing or for the tests also. So that's why, although I'm using the slides, but definitely I must say and I must accept that now onwards, some of the matters that I was also getting from other websites or so. So I was using earlier, but I assure you that now onwards I will also try to make 100% indigenous or 100% own slides. But definitely, even at this large platform as well, I accept that a little bit of the matters I also used to borrow from some other people. So thank you so much, sir, for such a beautiful session. And now, in our session, we are starting off with the statistical tools. So first of all, I'm sharing my PowerPoint presentation. So whether the presentation is visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much once again. So here we are starting off with the presentation on use of statistical tools in our research papers. So I have listed down a lot of research papers depending upon how or what kind of data we do get and what exactly is the meaning from these research tools. So first of all, let us start off, and just a second. Here it is. So first of all, statistical tools. Basically, we generally do understand statistical tools in two different parts, in two different ways. The first one is statistical tools is the use of softwares. Whatever softwares we do have, we also call these softwares as statistical tools. And the softwares generally that we use are SPSS, R, MATLAB, Excel, SAS, Prism, and Minitab. So these are different kind of softwares that we use. Now, as far as these softwares are concerned, I must say that SPSS is one of the most widely used software. And the complete name is Statistical Package for the Social Sciences. And it is definitely it is one of the most widely used statistical package. And more specifically in the primary data research, it is used. So now onwards, we have been seeing different versions of this software, and we have seen that the software has been improvised in every version of it. And at present, I believe that we are having somewhere around 27th or 28th version of the software. The second one is R, that is R Foundation for Statistical Computing. So this is basically SPSS is not freely available, but R is a freely available software package, and it is also very widely used. But only thing is that at some point of time, we need certain kind of coding while we are processing our data in R. So although it is very powerful software, and the thing is like coding is specifically required for R, and the people or the researcher who are a little bit weak or they are not too much into coding, for them R would be a difficult software. Then specifically for the people who are into the mathematical research, so MATLAB is once again a programming language. It is most widely it is it is used either in engineering researcher or scientist or scientific researchers. And similar to R, the learning or this software or this package also has certain kind of creation of codes. It is required. Although certain kind of toolboxes are also available with the software, but definitely we need to code as per our requirement. So this is what exactly is the requirement of MATLAB. Then there comes Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel, I believe almost each and every person while doing their research, they somehow use some or other how they generally use Microsoft Excel. Some of the people, Microsoft has also improved over the period of years. And earlier in its earlier versions, the statistical tools, or more specifically the statistical tools which we use in research, they were not in the software. But later on, with the improvisation of the Microsoft Excel, those tools have been introduced. Then there comes statistical analysis software. In short, we used to call it SAS. This is also an analytical platform, and basically it is graphical user interface, and it is generally used in more advanced analysis. So it is in business research, in healthcare research, in human behavior research. It is used, and not only in India but all over the world. It is very widely used. Then the GraphPad Prism is the full name for the software that I have only written Prism, but the complete name is GraphPad Prism. And this is also, it is very lesser known software, more specifically in India. However, outside I do not know a lot about it, but yes, definitely this is also software, and it is very much similar to SPSS. With this software as well, the scripting options are also available, means we can make our own coding for the generation of the output. And the last one, generally these one more thing which I would like to tell is that these are not the all inclusive list. These 7 softwares, these are not all inclusive list. There are other softwares as well, and you may find some like Statize, another software which is based on this R, and there are other softwares as well. However, in some of the softwares like R, we do get an option to customize the tests as per our own requirements. So Stata is one such software which generally people use, and it is based on R. So last one is Minitab. This Minitab is basically used for like very general or very basic type of observations or very basic type of data analysis. However, in the current versions, advanced form of Minitab has also been introduced, and graphical, earlier it was not graphical user interface, but now graphical using has also been introduced. So Minitab is also once again a good software for data analysis. So as far as software tools are concerned, these were the tools which generally we use for data analysis purpose. Now let us come to the statistical tools. What statistical tools are used? So for the purpose of selection of the statistical tools or statistical methods, I would say, is that the very first question rises is what exactly is our main question. So when the question is of, generally these are the 3 questions, although these are once again may not be a very inclusive list, but I have tried to include almost all of the questions, all of the research questions into it. So either we shall be predicting something, so the research question will be on prediction, or we shall be finding out either the association between 2 variables or 2 different groups, or we would be something like strength of the relationship between 2 or more than 2 variables. Alternatively, the third thing which we generally use, or in most of the cases what we find out, is whether there is any difference in the groups, and you frame our hypothesis accordingly. If we are framing a negative null hypothesis, in that case we used to form a hypothesis called there is no significant difference between variable and variable 2, or where there is no significant difference in the performance of group 1 or group 2. So these kind of hypothesis we generally use to make. So what exactly is our main question? Even if we are making a positive hypothesis, in that case we used to make a hypothesis in the name of like the performance of these 2 different groups, or the reading of these 2 groups, or the analysis of these 2 groups, whatever the result used to come is similar. So this is a positive hypothesis. However, we generally used to form a negative null hypothesis as well. So what exactly is the main question is? Depending upon the main question, we can segregate the different kind of statistical tools or statistical methods for the purpose of our research. Now, what kind of tools we do have? So tools are basically divided into 2 different parts: parametric tools and non-parametric tools. Although for all these all the 3 things, like for prediction, for association, or for differences in groups, we have discussed about, we have bifurcated them into all these 2 things, that is parametric tools and non-parametric tools. So the parametric tools, what exactly is the characteristic for parametric is where the parameters, or where specifically arithmetic mean, or the tools, or not exactly tools, but the methods based on arithmetic mean, they are more widely used or can easily be used. That is what is known as a parametric test. So the predictions about the data or predictions about the sample that can easily be done with the help of say our deviations, like standard deviation or so, and arithmetic mean forms or arithmetic mean plays an important role. So these are parametric tools. We shall be discussing in detail about what exactly are the tools. So the parametric tools and non-parametric tools. Non-parametric tools are those where we do not need, or the arithmetic mean does not actually is very important for us, because in that case definitely we use other methods for or other measures for central tendency, like mode. So mode can be used in some of the tests. Median can also be one of the part or one of the method that can be used. So the tools are basically of two different types: parametric tools and non-parametric tools. Parametric samples or parametric data, or non-parametric data. So tools, data we use to bifurcate into two different parts: parametric and non-parametric. Then there comes the first question that we are using is prediction. So what we shall be prediction we shall be making. Either it shall be a linear relationship, prediction of a linear relationship. We used to have causal relationships. So cause and effect relationship kind of hypothesis. Variable one or an independent variable affect the second variable. So the independent variable affects the dependent variable. Here we are having two different variables. One of them is independent variable and other one is dependent variable. The characteristics of independent and dependent variables have to be very carefully defined. Not only defined, but needs to be looked after, because independent and dependent variable, definitely there are changes or there are variations in both the variables, in both the observations. Only thing is, the variation in dependent variable or the variations in second observation, it has to precede by the variations in first observation or the first variable. We used to call independent variable. So changes in dependent variable must be preceded with changes in independent variable. So there has to be changes, and the changes in independent variable are prior as compared to that of dependent variable. So if there is only one independent variable, in that case we shall be using simple linear regression, where we do have two different variables, x and y, and it can easily be a cause and effect relationship can be established with the help of simple linear regression. But in case if it is more than two independent variables, in that case we require multiple linear regression. So multiple linear regression is where we are having more than two independent variables, and there can be requirement of introduction of dummy variables in case of depending upon what kind of data we are using. So we are having more than two independent variables, then we use multiple linear regression for the analysis of the data or for the establishment of our hypothesis. Then there comes non-linear relationship. In case we do not find a linear relationship between two variables, what happens is either we do not cover it or we assume as if the relationship is linear, because we do not actually have at this point of time we generally do not have any tool to find out exactly what kind of non-linear relationship it could be. The equations are already there, but the equations are like, there are like parabola, hyperbola, and those kind of relationships or those kind of equations are there. But those equations, either they are quadratic equations. So a quadratic kind of relationship can be there, but once again a quadratic relation used to follow a specific path. This is the reason why we assume as if there is linear relationship between the two variables, and we apply either simple linear regression or multiple linear regression depending upon the number of independent variables, or we need to change what exactly we are looking for or our variables. So that is while we are predicting. Then there comes association or strength of relationships. In case of association or strength of relationships, if it is parametric data, in that case we are once again having two different types of relationship between the variables. The very first is linear relationship, where we used to call Pearson's correlation. Pearson's correlation is represented, Pearson correlation is represented by R. Unfortunately, the brackets have been converted into this. This is a kind of this registered trademark or registered kind of mark, but this is basically small r that we use. So we use for linear relations we use Pearson's correlation, and the value for Pearson's correlation, I believe everybody knows, it ranges from +1 to -1. It has two different observations that we need to make out of Pearson's correlation. That first one is the direction of the relationship between the two variables, and the second one is magnitude of the relation. So the value defines magnitude, and the sign defines whether it is a positive correlation, whether it is directly proportional or inversely proportional. So once again, if it is nonlinear relations, then once again we will go for the assumption that either there is linear correlation, or we do not explore more into these kind of variables, and we used to change the variables that we are working upon. If it is a non-parametric test, in that case Spearman's rho is being calculated. Then once again it was about association and strength of the relationships. Then there comes differences in groups. When we are discussing about the differences in groups. So when we are discussing this differences in groups, this is the most widely used group of tools that are basically used for the research papers, or in the different theses or dissertations or so. So in differences in groups means there could be one group. If it is one group, in that case we shall be working on a single group as well. And what shall we be working on single group, that we are coming to on the very same thing in the next topic also, or later on. Then there shall be either one group and we shall be working on that group. Then there can be two different groups. So in case there are two different groups of data, in that case the first one will definitely be an independent variable and second one would be a dependent variable, or both of them could be independent groups of each other. So depending upon what we need to do is we need to calculate correlation between two different groups, how these two groups are correlated. Okay. Then the third situation where the number of groups are more than 2. If the number of groups are more than 2, in that case, there are two different kind of situations prevail. The very first is there is one independent group and two dependent groups, or two dependent variables, or there can be two independent variables and one dependent variable. So what happens is when there is more than one independent variable, in case it is more than two dependent variables, in that case normal tests, as we have just discussed, we shall be applying those tests. And in case if there are more than one dependent variable, there are two independent variables or more than two, or then in that case we use. And if the data is parametric, then we use Manova. Manova is basically it is basically multivariate analysis of variances. So we use Manova in this case. Definitely some of them. Another test which is beyond this Manova is Manova. That is called, this is a multivariate analysis of covariances. So some of the people, basically it is analysis of variance only. Either it is analysis of variance or it is analysis of covariance. Some of the people apply covariances as well. Some of the people apply variances as well. So we do have either it is Manova or it is Manova. Then the other one comes in case of it is a non-parametric data, or it is difficult to identify whether the importance of arithmetic mean is there or not. In that case, either we do not cover it, or we will once again work with the assumption that there is a linear relationship between the linear relationship either between the variables. And if it is non-parametric, in that case also once again we used to assume either we convert the data, or we will assume as if the data, whatever data we are getting, it is parametric only. So in case either we shall be converting the data from non-parametric to parametric, or we shall be using parametric tests as well. However, in this case, definitely the reliability of the tools will definitely be highly questionable. So in that case, generally either we do not cover it or we use certain kind of assumptions. Then in case if there is a single independent variable, when we are finding out differences in the groups, when we are comparing different groups, either a single group or two different groups or more than two groups, in that case, this one independent variable and other dependent variables, this is most widely used. So we have used them, or we have given them a specific. Is there any problem from my side? No, I do not. Okay. So if it is one independent variable, in that case, once again, we have divided into two different parts, as I discussed earlier, in parametric tools and in non-parametric tools. In parametric tools, when we are having covariations, so we need to calculate variations between the data between two different groups. If we are having covariations, in that case, we shall be using analysis of covariance. If there are no covariations or the covariation level is very low, in that case, once again, we are having two different options. Either we shall be comparing to a population. When we are comparing to a population, it means that we are working on a single group only. There is some kind of disturbance. May I request to please just mute this the disturbing participant? Anyone?
Neelam, please switch off your light.
Okay, let us continue over here.
Neelam, it's her name is Neelam. She's talking. Please kindly mute Neelam. Ma'am, Neelam.
Okay, let us continue with us only. Let us continue over here. Okay. So when there is a single independent variable, in that case also we are having.
Good evening, sir. Sir,
Yes.
can you please repeat it? Because of some disturbance, we were not able to listen that clearly.
Okay, so whether this parametric test were okay? This from this slide only or
Yes,
from
sir.
previous slide?
Yes, sir.
From
Yes,
this
sir.
slide
From
only.
this.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So when there are no covariations, in that case, what we used to do is when you are comparison to population, when you are comparing to population. So when we are comparing to population, it means we have drawn sample from a population. In that case, what we do is we use one sample t-test. When we are having a single group, when we are having a single group of your samples, and we are comparing that simple group, and we are assuming as if this single group of sample, it is having identical relationships with the population. So in that case, we use one sample t-test, because we used to draw a single sample only. So one sample t-test will be used. In one sample t-test also, either we shall be whatever the observation we are getting, it shall be compared with the threshold limit, or in general the arithmetic mean, whether the data or whether the behavior of the sample data, whether it is as per the population or not, or we used to presume that this sample, the behavior of the population will be as good as that of this sample. In other cases, there can either be two groups or more than two groups. If there are two different groups and both of them are independent groups, suppose we are comparing between on the basis of gender, if we are comparing males with females, if we are comparing on the basis of on the basis of appearing students in the examination and non-appearing students in the participating and non-participating, so when there are only two different options available, in that case we use t-test. But then t-test will once again be if both the groups are independent of each other. In that case, we shall be using independent samples t-test. Otherwise, if we are having either a single group, I have written correlated groups. Why I have written correlated groups is correlated groups are those groups where the group before the observation and after the treatment, before the treatment and after the treatment, the group is very same. So this is the reason why the name has been given correlated groups, where the group shall remain same and we shall be collecting observation before a treatment and after a treatment. So that's why we call it correlated groups. So we shall be using paired t-test. If there are two different groups, we shall be using independent samples t-test. Otherwise, if it is the very same group and we are collecting the observation pre-treatment and post-treatment, in that case, we shall be using paired t-test. If we are having more than two groups, in that case, we shall be using ANOVA or analysis of variance. However, in some cases, people used to say that ANOVA or analysis of variance is basically used in case of two different variables or in case of three different variables only, but ANOVA can be used in any number of variables. Then in one independent variable, if we are having more than one independent variable, then once again, either we are having independent groups, as we discussed over here, either we are having independent groups or we shall be having correlated groups. So in here, if we are having independent groups and more than one independent variable, in that case, we shall be having factorial ANOVA. It is a little bit advanced tool. I believe that at present or in our workshop, generally we do not use this factorial ANOVA, but it is very much similar to ANOVA, but factorial ANOVA is used in case of independent groups and more than one independent variable. Because what happens is we are when there is more than one independent variable, in that case we require to find out the effect of different independent variables on the dependent variables. So while we are doing that, in that case we require the factorial ANOVA or different kind of like the first independent group and the first independent variable and then dependent variables, the second independent variable and dependent variables. So this is called factorial ANOVA. Then there are correlated groups. Once again, correlated groups is either it is a single group or very highly correlated groups. In that case, what we need to do is we need to repeat ANOVA again and again. That's why we used to call it repeated measures ANOVA. And in case it is a mixture of groups, it are either there are independent groups and correlated groups as well. In that case, mixture of groups, but mixture of or mixed design ANOVA is used. But in that case, what happens is we need to identify each and every group with its characteristics. If the characteristics of two different groups we are comparing, or more than two groups which we are comparing, if it is similar to that of independent nature, in that case we shall be either using factorial ANOVA or we shall be using either independent t-test if the groups are correlated. So individually for each and every hypothesis, we need to identify the characteristics, we need to identify the relationship, the association between both the groups, if the groups are correlated, if the groups are independent, if there is a single group only. So every time we shall be identifying depending upon the characteristics of the group, the tool we shall be using. Now, if there is one independent variable, this is more than one independent variable, and what happens if there is only one independent variable? Now, once again, using one independent variable, this is most widely used in researches at present, when we are having only one independent variable. However, the trend is continuously changing, and now people are using more and more independent variables, because what happens is if we are having a single independent variable, in that case we need to assume that the relationship is either linear. So what happens now? More independent variables, when when the independent variable the effect of independent variable is being calculated on the dependent variable, then the complete explanation cannot be obtained. And that's why now the people are using the effect of more than one independent variable on the dependent variables. So in case we are talking about the non-parametric data, once again, at present we are not talking about the most widely used researches. This is once again less widely used researches. So in case it is a non-parametric data and we find differences in the proportions, and one independent variable is only there, in that case what happens is we use chi-square goodness of fit. I believe that while going through SPSS you will find, or while calculation you will find that there are two different places where chi-square test has been given in SPSS. One of them is goodness of fit and the other one is for the test of independence. So there are two different kind of this chi-square test can be used for the purpose depending upon what exactly we are doing. If we are having one independent variable, in that case we shall be using chi-square for goodness of it. And if we are having more than one independent variable, we shall use the chi-square test of independence, and that will actually let us know what exactly is the degree of independence or degree of association between two different variables. Then in the very same thing, one independent variable, this was once again non-parametric test. Earlier it was difference in proportions, now it is differences in ranks. Since it is once again non-parametric data, so either there shall be difference in proportions or there shall be difference in ranks. Different ranks have been given to different things. I believe people must be knowing about from difference in ranks. I believe this the rank correlation can be one of the examples. However, it is about correlation, but this rank can easily be understood with the help of that ranks correlation. Those who still remember ranks correlation, that though they can easily understand it, that for data, what we do is we use to provide ranks to the data to the individual groups, and then we compare ranks. So when there is differences in ranks are to be compared with one independent variable and independent groups, we use man-witness U-test, and when once again we use correlated groups, in that case we use Wilcoxon's test. When there are two groups or correlated groups, as I told you, correlated group is basically a single group where we are collecting the information, we are observing the information before treatment and after treatment, pre-treatment and post-treatment. In that case, we use Wilcoxon's test. If there are more than two groups and those groups are independent, in that case, what we do is we use Kruskal-Wallis H test for the establishment of relationship or for the purpose of observation, whether our hypothesis is being established or not. Once again, the hypothesis shall remain very same in each case. There is no significant difference. So, for the purpose of finding out the significant difference or the whether the difference is significant or not, in case of independent groups, we use Kruskal-Wallis H test, and if the groups are correlated, once again we shall use Friedman's test. Although these tests can be compared with the parametric data, the parametric test as well. Then there comes parametric test. Just a second. Yes, then there comes parametric test. In case we are having parametric data, and once again, then there is basically whether there is correlation, whether there is covariation or not. Just a second, please hold on. This is just a second. Yes. So once again, if there is there are parametric tests, the data is of parametric nature. Here we have this one independent variable with parametric. This we have already discussed. So now what happens is, when we are having more than one independent variable, when we are having more than one dependent variables, so different kinds of tests are basically used. So we use different kinds of tests. We use independent samples test. We use parallel samples test. We use either we shall be using one-way ANOVA, or we shall be using some revised measures. ANOVA are also being used. Depending upon the number of groups that we are having, we use different kinds of tests. Once again, if we are in prediction, we are predicting the data. If it is parametric, if we are predicting the data, in that case as well, the parametric data can also be once again of three different types. Either it is some kind of prediction, either it is once again some kind of strength or association, or once again we would be calculating differences. So differences in groups, that we have already discussed. In case of association, if the data is parametric and the relationship is non-linear, as I have told you, we generally do not cover it, or we assume as if the relationship is linear, and we shall be using Pearson's coefficient of Pearson's R, not exactly coefficient of correlation. And if the data is parametric, once again, and we are having prediction, in that case, in case of prediction as well, what we used to do is we use different either different kind of regressions. So we shall be using linear regression or we shall be using multiple linear regressions in this case. I believe this is clear to everyone. Now, if you are having certain kind of queries, because the statistical tools, they are very limited. Whatever the most widely used tools we generally use to cover, that I have already covered over here. So these only are the tests that we use to cover. Okay, so now people need a little bit of example upon dependent and independent variables as well. In case we are we are looking for independent variable, there is a relationship between independent and dependent variable, and what kind of relationship we can have. So the relationships are there has to be change. We need to identify what exactly are the changes and the happening of events, the changes. Whether the changes in independent variable, it is the changes in independent variable and changes in dependent variable. So the changes in independent variable shall be preceding the changes in dependent variable. Okay, like independent variable, dependent variable will be like independent variables. You can take very small example of independent variable that we can have. Can be age can be an independent variable. However, other properties of the person, that can be a dependent variable. Okay, so this is what exactly is the dependent and independent variable. Slide is not moving. Price is independent variable and demand is dependent variable. Then one, yeah, slide is not moving. Actually, the thing is, the slide has stuck over here, and I'm having certain problem with my this Google Slides. So that's why I'm unable to use this. Although I might require to restart it altogether. So this is the reason why I'm not starting it altogether. I'm not restarting the system. That's why the this slide has been stuck over here, and I'm continuing with this slide only. So here the price is independent variable and demand is dependent variable. In certain cases, price and demand can be having independent and dependent relationship, but in most of the cases, demand is something which used to induce the prices. So demand is something which actually makes the price or which decides the price. So if there is change in demand, definitely there will be change in price. Researchers suggest that demand precedes prices. So this is the reason why demand can be an independent variable and price would be a dependent variable. Higher education is the independent and higher salary is the dependent variable. Exactly. This can be one of the good examples of independent and dependent variable. Education level, rather than higher education, I will say at level of education is the independent variable, and salary or the remuneration that any person is getting is the dependent variable. So whatever we are making, whatever salary person is getting, whatever whatever remuneration he or she is getting, that is what is known as shall be the dependent variable. People are price sensitive. Price is independent and demand is dependent variable. Well, is okay, definitely. In this case, definitely we are having some differences of opinions. So this shall be there, no doubt. Yes, climate is definitely an independent variable, and agricultural production is a dependent variable. Very good. This is one of the best examples. This is one of the best examples of for dependent and independent variables. Then when we are having more than, or when we are comparing the variances, or rather than I should say when we are discussing about ANOVA models. So like analysis of variance or ANOVA, it is basically used to determine the proportion of variability, and ANOVA, it actually when we are talking about our research softwares, what it actually produces is something like a resource table or so, and some other things are as well. So this is how we use to how we use ANOVA as well. Then there are different, as we discussed, there are different tools that are used for the purpose of, or we can use them for the purpose of research in our research papers. In case anybody is having some other queries as well.
Sir, excuse me.
Yes.
I need to ask, or I have a curiosity to know that if suppose this you have explained independent and dependent variables very well, but suppose that experimentation data is there. In that case, if I am taking let's say 1000 observations, for example, okay, so that 1000 observations, whatever the readings I have taken, whatever I have noted observations, so how do I validate that observation, whether it is correctly taken or not? This is my question actually.
Can you please repeat the question once again? Because validating whether you have taken the observation, whether those observations are correct or not, it depends upon your method, how you will be collecting the data. If you are collecting an observation, so whether how to collect that observation, that is basically on what the verification or the reliability of the data need to be shall be based. Because what happens, like I'm telling you that I'm giving an example. What happens when we test the effect of a specific kind of specific kind of fertilizer on crops? In that case, what we collect, or what data or how we collect the data, is the height at different points of time. What is the height of the plant? What exactly is the color of the plant throughout the time period for which we are treating it with a specific kind of fertilizer or not? So, and in the last, what exactly is the production? So without the fertilizer, what was production? With the fertilizer, what was the production? This is what we used to compare. So while collecting the data,
okay.
Actually, ma'am is telling about the non-metric data. I think this tools and all will be applicable only for.
I'm unable to understand the question exactly.
Just a minute, sir. If suppose I want to take some weight on weighing machine, there may be some error.
Definitely.
If I want to check the humidity, extraneous variable, we can say.
Sure.
Okay. So if there is a humidity, I want to measure the temperature, I want to measure the rate of something like that. So is there any software that whatever the readings I have taken during that experimentation, that those readings are correct or not? That I want to, but because at one presentation, some session chair asked me this question, that you have taken such and such n number of readings. So how do you come to know that these readings are correct? That answer I still yet not got.
Okay. So
sir, I think she is asking about standard error.
Standard, exactly. Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes, there is standard error. This is what she's asking about. And one more thing is that what happens, whether there is any differences in that data or not, what happens is there are certain things which actually depends upon the data that you are collecting, the quantity of samples that you are collecting. If suppose there is a population, because what happens in general, I believe everybody will be agree with me a little bit on this, or not a little bit, but a lot on this, that as you increase the number of observations, you will repeatedly get the very same kind of observations every time. This is one basic thing. So when you are getting the very same kind of observations, what happens, like as you told, you have gathered data from 1000 representatives or 1000 respondents. So while you are collecting the data from 1000 respondents, I believe definitely there would be some kind of biasness would be there, some kind of or biasness from any one side, from researcher as well as from the respondent as well, that could also be there. But there is a standard, like what we need to do is you need to reduce the standard error as much as possible. This is one of the reasons. Oh, sorry, this is one of the solutions. So what you need to do is you need to calculate, you need to make different groups of samples, and you need to calculate arithmetic mean from these samples. You need to calculate deviations from these samples, and the standard, and you need to like when you are calculating standard deviations from these, the lower the standard deviation is, higher shall be the chances that you are committing less and less error. This is one of the things. This is how you can do this. Still means the software, I also do not believe that there can be a software for this, for correction of, if you are weighing something and you are weighing, you are using the same scale for weighing, you need to use the same scale for weighing. If you are using the same scale, definitely the very same amount of error shall be there throughout the sample you are collecting, and that can be easily that can easily be either put into the calculation, or that can easily be, you can say that it can be spread over it can be spread over all the samples, so it shall be reduced automatically. Another question was there about yes, another question was there about Factorial Anova. So Factorial Anova is that it is Anova only, but when it uses some kind of categorical variable, categorical independent variable. Like I believe that some of the people, they would have used two-way ANOVA. So one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA is once again a Factorial ANOVA, is an example of Factorial ANOVA only. And why? When should we use Factorial ANOVA? So it should be used when the research question, or when the researcher used to ask for the influence of two or more than two independent variables on a single dependent variable. If we are having more than two independent variables and more than two dependent variables, in that case mixed design ANOVA we use. In that case mixed design ANOVA shall be used. And in case you are having this more than two independent variables and one single dependent variable, in that case we shall be using Factorial ANOVA. Is it clear to everyone now?
Yes,
It is
sir.
clear actually. The arithmetic mean and deviation, that I like more if I want to validate.
There is some voice problem. I am unable to listen to her.
Sir, you
Hello.
gave so excellent answer. Hello.
Yes.
Is it well, sir? Hello.
Yeah, now it is audible.
You told that arithmetic mean and deviation, that I like more. So it will be more better. It give more better result that whatever I have taken observations or readings. So whether
Yes.
those are correct or not. So this method I like more, arithmetic mean and deviation.
Definitely, this will help you, because what you need
Yes,
to do
sir.
is make different small samples, small group of samples, and then calculate
Okay.
average, arithmetic mean, take out their standard deviation, and then you
Okay.
compare the deviations.
Okay, sir.
That will be
And
helpful.
how much readings or observations we should take? More number means how much?
Ma'am, actually, this is
Sample
kind
size.
of, yes, sample size is one of the controversial questions, and whenever you are the external on in Viva, whenever they can easily every time they use this question only, that what exactly is the sample size and why you have taken this specific sample size only. So
There is
Yeah.
some
what happens?
formulas, Cochrane formulas
There
and
are,
other
exactly,
formulas.
yes, there are certain formulas. And one more thing, our this if I go a little bit into statistics, you will find there is a central limit theorem. That central limit theorem used to say that in general what happens is, the more observations you will take, they will be in a specific kind of shape. It will form a bell shape. So the more observations you take, your data shall be, or the sample or whatever observation you are doing, the data shall be more normal, and you should have normal data. Abnormal data should be avoided as much as possible. This is the reason why we used to increase number of samples. Either if you are having 1000 samples, what will happen if you take 2000 samples instead of 1000 samples? If you take 2000 samples, the thing will be very same. Okay, and the error shall automatically be reduced. The observation or the outcome or the result you are getting from the sample, it will automatically resemble with that what exactly the population mean is. So the average of sample shall be resembling with the average of population. If suppose you are working on, say, the doctors treating cancers, we call them radiologists. So if you are doing some research on radiologists, what will happen is, suppose there are 10,000 or suppose there are 5,000 radiologists in the country, and you have taken data from 2,000 of them. You have collected responses from 2,000 of them, from 3,000 of them. Now what will happen if you are collecting responses from 500 of them? This is what we can say that this will be a very small sample or so. But if you are collecting data from 3,000 out of 5,000, you will be covering, or you will be getting responses from maximum number of the population units only. In that case, what will happen is the sample will automatically represent the population. It will be almost identical to the population. So higher number of your samples or higher number of your sample units, they will automatically make the data normal. Any more questions over there?
Yes, sir. This is Shivanand.
Sir.
Sir, my question is that in one of your slide you have mentioned that validity and reliability. I hope that validity and reliability test will be conducted for making the standardized tool. So here the question is that what should be the validity and reliability value? We say that this XYZ tool which I have used in my study, I got this is the reliability value and validity value, and so that I can consider this is the one of the fit test and standardized tool. Can you briefly explain about it, sir?
Actually, the value of reliability, like reliability coefficient, the lowest value is 0 and highest value is 1. In most of the cases, you will find the very same thing. In most of the cases, you will find this only, that the reliability, if it is 1, it is 100% reliable. If the reliability is 0, in that case definitely there is no reliability. So what happens is, reliability, the value of reliability coefficient will be between 0 and 1.
Sir, I think he is asking about p-values. That is 5% and 10%. I think so.
P-value is different. He is asking
No,
about
P-value
reliability
is
and
different,
validity.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
reliability and
He is
validity.
asking about reliability and validity. So reliability coefficient, the value of reliability coefficient, it will be between 0 and 1. If it is between 0 and 1, now it depends upon, if it is nearing 1, definitely reliability is more. If it is nearing 0, definitely reliability will be less.
But
And how
this
to
can
check
be,
it?
yeah, this can be, we identify that while soon after collecting the data from the field, we'll go for the feasibility and validity of the data. Then
Yes.
only we are going for the statistical analysis. Am I correct?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, and you told that if it is the validity value will be from 0 to 1, it can be considered as a standardized tool.
Okay.
But
Yes.
in the standardized tool format, there are some values which can be say that whether the tool is highly validity, low validity, and further other researches can be conducted because this tool got this much value, availability values. So I
Yes.
wanted to be know that is there any specific value to consider the tool got this much reliability and validity so that it is the standardized tool. And I strongly agree that, as you told, if the value is 0.1 or whatever it may be, I don't
Yes.
think so it is called as the standardized tool. As per my experience, being I'm a PhD holder,
Mhm.
and I'm not expert in this validity and reliability test, so that I asked
One thing.
Excuse me, sir.
Actually, there are two different things. Reliability is different, validity is different.
But sir, for the most of the time to make the tool as a standardized, the author and the people, the expert, so-called expert, they will ask the what is the reliability and validity value of your tool.
Look, validity. There are different types of validities. If you go into deep, you will find that there are more than 5-7 types of validities.
So when you
We-
talk about retest methods, when you're retesting if
Exactly.
something and the result is similar to the previous test, it is reliable scale.
It is reliable. It is reliable.
Yeah.
Yes. It is reliable. If you are talking about validity and reliability, in that case, there are two different things. Validity is different. There are more than 5-7 different types of validities. Phase validity, we use construct validity, we have internal validity, we have external validity. So there are different kinds of validities.
Yes, sir. I completely agree. You told that phase validity. That is the one of the test which we can go for the standardize of the tool. But my question is that one of the expert, he asked that what is if you called your tool is a standardized, and how can you decide that your tool is completely standard? What is the value? Till I did not get the answer for that question. And moreover, whatever you discussed in this session, it was overall quantitative tools. And how about is there any qualitative tool which can be used for the qualitative research?
Yes, definitely qualitative tools also we do have. And I believe that actually what happens is qualitative and quantitative, these are two different things actually. So in case of qualitative tools, what happens is you need to, what kind of qualitative data we do have. Nowadays, whatever qualitative data you are having, in general, this is non-numerical data. Either you would be having some kind of text, you would be having a series of videos, you would be having some series of audios available with us. Okay, so this is what is known as a qualitative research. It involves collection of different types of opinions. It involves collection of different type of experiences. So experiences can be, or perceptions, experiences or perceptions, they can be converted from non-parametric or qualitative to quantitative methods. And then these perceptions or experiences are then put to different tests which are quantitative in nature. So what happens is qualitative data is also there. We used to collect qualitative data with the help of these tools only. But what happens is qualitative data, it is difficult to authenticate the qualitative data.
Triangulation method is there, no, sir? Matlab, if you're talking about qualitative analysis, you're talking about thematic analysis and stuff. As you said, it can be difficult, but it is possible, right?
Yeah, it is possible. I'm not saying that it is not possible. Only thing is it is difficult. One thing. Second thing, the reliability on qualitative tests or the qualitative collection of qualitative data, because in case of qualitative data, what happens is the amount of biasness increases. Definitely, the amount of biasness, then there can be like a difference in understanding of the questions that are being asked, recordings. There is more kind of like the reliability issue is more in the qualitative data. This is one of the things. This is like someone is writing his or her opinion about something. So opinion, what we do is, since qualitative data, we used to convert these perceptions, we used to convert these experiences and in Likert scale, in the form of other scales. And what we do is we used to convert this qualitative data into quantitative data, and then we perform different kinds of these parametric tests. This is what happens. So qualitative data is also there. If we are having, say, some 20, 30, 40 opinions, how will we summarize them? It will once again depend upon like on the researcher himself or herself. So,
sir, it also depends on the discipline.
Exactly, yes.
Yes. Which subject we are researching in. It very majorly depends on that. Like I'm a historical history scholar.
Exactly,
So I work on oral histories.
So authentication is through the audios which I collect, and I also do video documentaries.
Yes.
So they are authenticated because I'm talking to their maybe family members or themselves.
Exactly, and you are recording them as well.
Yes.
So that they can be produced at the time, if at any given point of time, wherever it is required.
Yes, sir. But if it is a psychology subject, then of course, as you said, opinions.
Exactly. Yes.
30
Opinions,
40
perceptions.
opinions,
Yes.
then
If you are
reliability
talking,
has to be there.
if you are talking about consumer behavior, if you are talking about some purchasing experience of some consumer, in that case, what happens is you need to collect the perception, you need to collect the experience with the help of these Likert scales also. So we convert this qualitative data into quantitative data.
So you mean to say that same qualitative information we can be converted into quantitative, and we can go with the SPSS status?
Depending upon what kind of research, in which stream you are performing the research. As I told you, as has just been discussed by ma'am, that she is collecting the data from collecting historical evidences. So if she is collecting historical evidences, in that case, definitely the data cannot be converted into quantitative data. But the evidences collected, that has to be authenticated. And how she is authenticating? She is keeping the audio record, she is keeping the video records. So in case of it is required, we can reproduce them whenever somebody is asking, or somebody is suppose if somebody is questioning the authenticity, that how you can say a specific type of thing, how you can predict this. So you can, anytime you can produce that specific audio, video, tapes, or whatever it is. Now I believe it is clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, my question is, what is face validity? I have some confusion about it.
Now, face validity, actually, face validity is a very what I can say. Face validity is a very small kind of thing, like the procedure. Basically, face validity is the procedure when you are collecting the data in some kind of psychological assessment, in some kind of test, or some kind of questionnaire. With the help of questionnaire, if you are collecting the data, so whether it is effective or not, this is what is known as face validity.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And adding to that, face validity is nothing but whether the data which we have collected, it is near to the society, which means whether it is near to the
Whether it is resembling,
exactly. Yeah,
yes.
whether
Whether it is
near to
resembling or
exact.
not.
Yeah. So once we do the face validity, then only we can carry forward the same data for the statistical analysis. If the data are not closer to the truth, and we have to be rethink of the data, and we have to be go for the recollection of the data, and we have to go for the face validity, and next we can go for the data analysis.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Even while when you are preparing your questionnaires, at that time also the tool, that also this questionnaire, that also need to be the very, although the value of face validity is very less in case you are collecting the data with the help of some questionnaire or so, face validity is not of very importance, but definitely it is, because like you are showing your questionnaire to the experts in the group or in your knowledge, and you are asking whether the questionnaire is sufficient, whether the questionnaire, where all the questions collecting the data which is related to your research, whether each and every question has been included or not. So this is face validity. This is very small. Not, I won't say that it is negligible type of thing, but it is very initially when we are preparing your questionnaire. At that time only we need to get this face validity.
So sorry to interrupt. That is the content validity. We are asking the expert that whether it is correct or not.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Whether the test, yes, exactly. What are the test items? Whether they appear to the measure or not. The test is intended to measure whether it has a strong validity or not. So, like the test, whether it is consisting of the problems in which the test taker has to add or subtract numbers, may be considered to have strong face validity also. So, this is how we use to define the face validity. Any more questions? Okay, so Ajay sir over there.
Yes, sir. Is the session over?
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
So on behalf of organizers, first I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to our special guest, Mr. Von Eric Pendock, for his presence at today's session. Please accept my thanks for your extremely thought-provoking and engaging talk, sir. I would want to express my gratitude to our eminent speaker and subject expert, Mr. Samir Dubey, for his wonderful presentations, for making this session a very meaningful and engaging experience, and responding to all the queries of the participants. His talk clearly shows his experience in both academics and corporate, and the way he delivered the talk has covered both the aspects related to the subject very well. This shows his profound knowledge about the subject. So thank you so much, sir, for responding all the doubts of the participants and taking this session at such level. I also extend my thanks to the organizers, SAGE University and RFI. I thank all the participants for being part of the session and making it interactive. So kindly join tomorrow at the same time. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?